Hello everybody. So today I'm very excited to present to you this interview, and this is Sarah Frances Young, and actually she was one of the inspirations in my recovery. I think it was about 2013 or 14 when I was still in my recovery, and I searched about the minimal calorie guidelines and extreme hunger, and I had the problem with overexercising, and I searched somebody from YouTube who had a similar message. So her videos were kind of like helping me progress and not fall back to eating disorder. So thank you so much, Sarah, for coming here. Maybe you can tell the viewers about maybe who you are, what do you do, and also about your story, how the eating disorder started and how you recovered.
Okay, so my eating disorder started when I was about 13. I guess there wasn't a big trigger for it. I know a lot of people experience trauma or something that's like a very big traumatic experience that causes an eating disorder. But I think for me, it was a myriad of very small things. Well, not small, they were important things, but smaller things than trauma that kind of all came together in not a very nice recipe and just triggered off my eating disorder. I think one of the big contributing factors towards the development of my eating disorder was feeling very average. I'm not like someone who is the average. I have talents and things that I'm good at, but I just never felt like I was the best at something. And then when I started to lose weight, I felt like I was the best at doing that, and I felt very in control and very powerful, and it gave me a sense of purpose, I suppose. And I think there were other contributions, like a little bit of bullying. I wouldn't say that bullying was a huge part of my life, but I guess everybody in school experiences some sort of bullying from peers or even friends, and I had a bit of a rocky family life at home, and there was just all these different contributing factors that I guess in a kind of cliche way kind of made me feel a little bit out of control in my life. And then I looked for something that could kind of make me feel more in control and more powerful and more I had control over things in my life, and I guess that's the thing that started it. But because I had it for so long, because I had it for about 10 years in total, it kind of changes and develops, doesn't it? The reasons that you actually continue with it change and develop as you continue to go forward with it. And I think for me, it was kind of very bad at the beginning, and then I kind of stabled out a bit, and it wasn't good or ideal the way I was living, but I wasn't getting any worse, and I lived in a period for about 6 or 7 years when it was kind of up, down, and then it got very bad when I was at uni, and that's when I kind of just got really, really fed up of being so miserable all of the time and so sick, and everything was so rubbish. I just didn't want to live that way anymore, and for me, I felt so desperate that I thought that the only way out was not to be in the world anymore. But then I realized actually there was another option, and that recovery, however difficult it was going to be, was the chance at starting a new life and making a good life for myself. And I knew that this was going to be so hard. It's why I didn't want to face the possibility of recovery before. But then, I don't know, I guess it just became an option for me because I didn't want to not be in the world. I mean, I was so desperate and miserable that was something that I thought about, but in reality, I still wanted to be here and to enjoy life, but it not to be the life that I was living, it to be a better life. And so that's when I started my recovery journey, and took about 2.5 years in total. And then I started creating a blog on Tumblr, which was about recovery. It was for myself, but then it quickly turned into it being about helping other people. And I guess over time that developed and became quite a popular blog. And then I made a website and an Instagram and a YouTube channel. And now the one I focus on the most is the Instagram Body Positive Pet. But I still run my website, and I did recently stopped running my blog. Actually, I've left it up for everybody to see, but I'm not answering questions anymore. But yeah, I think like I just want to spread that message about recovery and that it's possible, and to kind of guide and help people through the process. And also to focus not just on eating disorder recovery, but on the body positivity side as well. So for people who have not necessarily just had eating disorders, but disordered eating and dieting and low self-esteem and bad body image, all that kind of stuff. Like I kind of merge the two, both eating disorder recovery and body positive messages, just to help people who are struggling.
Yeah, because the body image thing is can be like one of the core problems people start to like diet and restrict in the first place. So yeah, and what did you say? Like what type of eating disorder you had?
So I had atypical anorexia, which comes under what was formerly known as EDNOS, but is now OSFED.
Okay, yeah. And how did you find out about that? Did you recover on your own, or did you use like a treatment team or something? Or
mostly I recovered by myself. When I was a teenager, I had a lot of different therapies, none of them particularly successful with me. I don't think I was in the place to really utilize them, and so I wasn't really in the place where I was committed to recovery, and so I became an adult, and then when you're an adult, accessing mental health services is so much more difficult. So really, I recovered mostly by myself. I did have 6 sessions of cognitive behavioral therapy, and I did do a group mindfulness group, but I wasn't really into the mindfulness thing, and I didn't complete the course there. But the CBT was helpful in a way, and I do think that in general, having professional support is really, really important for a lot of people. For me, I didn't find it as important, and I think being an adult as well meant that I didn't have as much access to the kind of support that was possibly needed at the time, because the support that I had came a lot later. So I was on the waiting list for 8 months before I even got any therapy at all. And by then I was kind of in a fairly stable place by myself anyway, and like moving forwards. So really the help would have been a lot more important at the beginning, but I wasn't able to access it because of the waiting list times are so long for people.
Yeah. So what about, okay, let's talk about the recovery and how, like, what did you learn going through your own recovery? Because I find like people have the most fear about the extreme hunger they can experience after they have been through the restrictive eating disorder. And you went through the period of extreme hunger as well, yes? So,
yes.
Maybe some advice or your best advice to somebody who is going through extreme hunger. Like, is it normal? Like, how do you go about it?
I think for me, like when I experienced extreme hunger, I didn't actually know I was experiencing extreme hunger. I didn't know anything about extreme hunger. So for me, it was like really terrifying. And I think a lot of people don't have access to that information. They don't know what it is. And so they immediately turn to the conclusion that they have developed binge eating disorder. And obviously this is just like the most petrifying thing, because your eating disorder is obviously going to be magnified in this instance, and is just going to completely go crazy at you, because it's the opposite of what it wants you to do. And I think it's so important to recognize that however terrified you feel about it, and however much your eating disorder wants to manipulate the situation into saying you're binging, like you're eating too much, I think you really have to like listen to logic and just know that you're not like a magical unicorn. I think everybody thinks like, oh yeah, other people experience extreme hunger, but I'm different, I'm binging, because that's what the eating disorder wants to say. It wants to say like, you're different, you're binging. It doesn't matter that everybody else is recovering and experiencing this physical symptom of recovery, like you're different. And I think that it will always try and make you feel like it doesn't matter what other people are experiencing, you're binging. But I think it's so important just to remember, like, you're not a magical snowflake. You're not a magical unicorn. You are the same as everybody else. Not exactly the same, but physiologically, if anybody starves themselves, you're going to end up needing to make up the energy. And you know, if you think about the years or the months that you restrict and all the energy that you cut off each day that you need, that just adds up to so much energy in the end, and that creates a lot of damage within the body that then needs to be repaired, and that takes a lot of energy. And I think, like, when you start to look at it from a logical point of view, it just makes so much sense that you would need that energy, and that it's totally normal to have that craving for so much energy and food, and the types of food you crave as well, the foods that are high in fat and carbs and sugar and all that kind of stuff, because that's the stuff your body is lacking, and it's the stuff that gives quick energy to repair damage. And I think that people get so hooked up with listening to their eating disorder, which is totally understandable. I mean, we all did that, that you forget to look at the logic of the situation, and just how logical it is that if you are deficit in so much energy, you have to make it up somewhere.
Yeah. And for me, it really helped to know about the Minnesota starvation experiment, and yeah, just like the logic, because before, like, it seems so illogical that binge eating is normal, or eating so much is like normal. Like, of course, it's not like normal. There is like, yeah, like something wrong, but there is a reason, like very good reason why it is like this. And also the starvation is not normal, like restricting dieting, and this is not normal. So to come out of it, like, your body needs to like kind of compensate for the restriction or lack of it. So yeah, it's like, it's very logical, and this also helped me so much. And also I want to ask, like you mentioned, like eating very high calorie foods, because I came from orthorexia, and one of the reasons I didn't recover, even though I started to like not restrict calories and everything, was because I was so afraid to eat like junk food and everything. So what do you say people who say like, yeah, but it's very unhealthy to eat so much junk food, like especially when you have extreme hunger, like this can't be healthy? Like, what do you say to those people?
Well, I think that when your body is energy balanced, it's weight restored, you're at your healthy weight, then I do agree with a balanced, varied diet. I think that naturally, if you start to listen to your body when it's healthy, you will eat a varied diet, which includes lots of fruit and vegetables and fish and carbs and chocolate and a bit of everything. But I think you have to realize that when you're in recovery, your body is not healthy, and it's not going to need a varied diet. I mean, yes, everybody needs everything in their diet, but your body is lacking and it's deficient in certain things, and therefore it will need them way more than other things. And yes, when you are then healthy again, your diet will become far more balanced, far more varied. But actually, when you're so deficient in energy and fat, that's what your body's going to need. And I think it's like, if you're going through, you know, maybe it's 3 weeks, maybe it's 3 months, maybe it's 6 months of eating high calorie, what people call unhealthy food. In the span of things, that's what, 6 months out of your entire life. It's not going to have an effect on your health, like a long-term effect on your health. And actually, it's actually going to be beneficial because that's what you needed at the time. And I think that, again, it's about the logic. It's like, if you are extremely underweight for your body, or by BMI, whichever, you obviously do not have enough fat on your body. Therefore, if you eat things high in fat, you're going to restore the fat that you need on your body. And that's just, like, again, a logical thing. And that, yeah, okay, I don't promote eating only junk food for your entire life. That's not something that I promote, but I do promote giving your body what it needs at certain times in your life. And therefore, if you have not enough fat for your body, you then need to stock up on fat, and eating fatty foods is going to do that. And yeah, I think, again, it's about logic. Yeah. It's not about always eating 5 donuts a day, or always eating pizza for dinner, or always having 3 takeaways. But if you're going to do that for 6 months, that's fine. Like, if that's what you need in that time period, that's okay.
Yeah, you have to like trust your body. And I think like people often think that if in recovery they have this extreme hunger and like binging, or if they only crave junk food, then this means like this is how they will eat like for the rest of their lives. Yeah. But this is like, like they have to understand that recovery doesn't mean normal eating. Recovery is not normal eating. It is normal how it happens and why it happens. but after recovery you will be like normal. It's not gonna like last forever. And secondly, like many people as me, I wasn't like underweight. I was never underweight when I was like binging and purging and over exercising and did like calorie restriction and fasting. But even me, I needed the high calorie foods. I think mostly for the, yes, some like purging is still restriction, over exercising is restriction, but also for the mental, like, like to restore my mental stability, that it's okay to eat those foods. And it recovered my mental, like the fear, the good and bad food mindset. So also mentally it's very important.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, a lot of it is about business stuff and about damage and reparation of that damage. But actually, I was just talking with my friend about this actually, and that if you see a food as forbidden, so obviously if you've got orthorexia or any kind of eating disorder, we see certain foods as forbidden, and you're not allowed to touch them, you're not allowed to have them, and that creates like it's like you've got the big red button and someone says don't push the button, so all you want to do is push the button. And it's the same thing with foods. Like, so if you've restricted chocolate for a year and you've never had chocolate, then like chocolate's going to be like this thing in your head that you're going to want to have loads of, and so you have loads of it and you eat loads of chocolate and you eat, I don't know, 10 chocolate bars a day for a month, and like after a while, it becomes a bit boring. It's like, it's chocolate. Chocolate's fine now. I know that I can have it. It's always going to be there. I can have it when I want. And then it becomes more normalized as like, as a food. It's not something that's off limits, forbidden. So it's not something you're always like, I can't have it, I can't have it, I can't have it. So you're thinking about it all the time. It becomes like, it's chocolate. Yeah, I'll have a bit of that later. You know, like it becomes so much more normal in as a mental thing as well. And like you said, it's not just about the physical, it's about the mental as well.
Yeah. And I thought like I had food addiction, like junk food is addicting. Like everybody says like, yes, it's like chemicals, something, blah, 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 blah. But still, like my experience shows that I can eat now all of my former binge foods like normally. There is like no overeating, even no thoughts about like, I want to binge eat or I have to restrict, like nothing. So it proves that the restriction creates the addiction. So
yes. Actually, funnily enough, I was reading an article about that last night. I can't remember who it was, but I can give you the link later. You can always put it in the comments or whatever. But there was an article I read about food addiction and about how actually that it makes no sense, and it's not the same as being addicted to a drug or anything. It's and she goes into detail about the evidence for this, so it would be a really useful thing.
Yeah, we can link it down below. Okay, so the next question I want to ask, also like very fearful for like most people, is the fear of, or like the weight gain. Like people need to either like gain weight for physical health or just to like let go of the control and everything, because like even though I wasn't underweight or anything, I was like normal weight, I needed to have this like okay, I accept myself like even when I gain weight, but I choose recovery even when I gain weight. So what do you say to people who are like, yeah, I would go to eat like mini mod as long as I don't gain weight? So how to let go of this fear? Because this is what's stopping them.
Yeah, I mean, when I first had the idea of going into recovery, that was what I said to myself. I said, I'll recover, but I'm not going to gain any weight. And obviously, it's kind of laughable to myself now, because you can't do that. You can't lose weight during an eating disorder and then recover without gaining weight. And of course, there are people who don't lose weight during their eating disorders or even gain weight. But for the people who need to gain weight during the recovery process, I mean, it's just utterly terrifying. I was completely in denial. I was like, no, I'm not gaining any weight. Yes, I will get better, but I'm not going to gain weight. And that makes no sense, because to get better, you have to gain weight. And I think really you have to think like, what's more important? Is it more important that you get your life back? Is it more important that you have your friendships and relationships? And is it more important that you follow your dreams and become the person that you are, than not gain weight? And really, it's kind of an obvious choice. I mean, it's not when you feel the way you do and the terror that you feel, but I think it's about just managing it as it comes. Because when I started gaining weight, if I'd known that I was going to gain I think I've gained like 75 pounds in recovery overall. Like if I knew that I was going to gain that, like I would never have done it. I would never have been able to start. But I think like, you know, I didn't know what I was going to gain. And actually I just thought, you know what, I'll just take this day as it comes, and I'll take this week as it comes. And every stage that I got to where I was like, I can't do this anymore, I worked through it, I cried, I shouted at somebody, and then I just kept going. And I think you just have to take it that stage at a time and know that however horrible it feels, like it does get better, and there are ways to manage it. And eventually, you know, I'm now 75 pounds heavier, and I literally couldn't give a shit. Like, I'm so glad I've done that. I'm so much heavier and so much bigger than I used to be, but actually I'm so much healthier, I'm so much happier, I have a positive relationship, I have great friends, I am working in a job that I really enjoy. My life now is really great. I have a really happy, healthy, content life, and before I was suicidal. So gaining 75 pounds was one thing, but everything that I gained as well in my life was just everything to me. And I think that when you're in that place where you can't see that, you just have to take each day as it comes, and just not think about the whole journey. You've just got to think about your journey that day, and just deal with the weight gain that day. So you've gained a pound that day, just deal with that 1 pound. Just deal with that 1 pound on that one day. And it's just about, you're just taking it as it comes and taking it really slowly.
Yeah, and also maybe like people think that like because they feel so shitty about themselves like right now, but they are like skinnier, they think that okay, if I gain the weight, like I feel the same way plus the weight gain, like and it will add to the like feeling shittier. But no, like your mental and everything, like it will change as long as like the weight gain. So it's kind of like shifting. Your mental health is like better, and the weight will change, and it's not gonna feel like this, because as you said, like you have so many benefits, and you would never like trade it to being back to eating soda but skinnier. Like it's not worth it.
Yeah, and I think it's important to recognize that when you do gain weight, it will feel awful. Like, I remember feeling like I wanted to tear my own skin off because I hated it so much. But it's about being like, okay, I feel like this, but I'm going to sit with it. I'm going to push through and continue anyway. And that's when it starts to get better, is when you sit with that anxiety and those awful feelings, and you don't respond to the eating disorder. You respond to you and knowing that you can push through it and get through it and do another day of it. And I think that that's when it starts to get better, is to recognize that it's going to feel awful. Recovery is a really difficult experience because, I mean, like, if it was easy, we would have all done it years ago, or months ago, you know, like we would have done it right at the start. And it will be difficult. Gaining weight will be difficult, and it's going to feel difficult, but it's about it being difficult and not going back to the eating disorder and not responding with eating disorder behaviors, and about letting yourself be anxious and not doing anything about it, and actually just working through it and continuing through it. And that's when it starts to get better, because when you push through each barrier of anxiety.
Yeah. So I want to also ask you, we already talked about it like a little bit here in this question, but like you promote the body positivity and how to feel good about like in your own skin, like no matter what is your weight. So what do you, how do you, like, what are your best tips on like how to improve your body image and self-esteem and like get over the weight obsession?
Well, I think, like, for me, a lot of it was actually reading studies, like reading research and reading studies, and realizing, again, like I talk a lot about logic, but just realizing that it was all a lie. All that stuff that I'd been told in magazines and all the stuff the media promoted, and all this stuff about skinnier being healthier and skinnier being better, it was just so much bullshit. And reading this research, like, again, the Minnesota starvation experiment, and I mean, I went on and on from there. I mean, if anyone wants to look at my website, everythingedrecovery.com, I have resources on there where I put all this stuff about health at every size and weight set point theory and stuff like that, and just reading all this information, this wealth of information that just said, like, actually people are healthy at all different weights and shapes and sizes. And that really helped me realize, like, no, actually, it's fine to be the weight I am, and it's fine to eat how I do, and it's fine to exercise how I do. And that really helped. And then the body positivity movement and feminism both helped me a lot. Feminism really helped me feel empowered in my own body and kind of gave me more confidence about being like, fuck what everyone else thinks. I'm going to be who I am and look how I look and live a happy life. Like, I'm not going to try and fit into a mold and make myself miserable by doing so. Like, I'm not going to live that kind of life. That's not what I want to live. And the body positivity movement, I mean, people like Body Posi Panda and Choose Life Warrior and Amalili, just following them and seeing their posts. I mean, if those three examples I just gave are all totally different body types. I mean, Amalili is very conventionally very beautiful and thin, slim, and Body Posi Panda is very curvy and kind of more my size. So I really relate to her and her posts a lot. Like, if I ever have bad body days, I look at her stuff. And Choose Life Warrior is a lot bigger, and all of them are just so great in helping different body types, weight, shape, sizes, in accepting who you are and living your life in your body and being okay with that. And I just feel like the body positive movement is so helpful for that kind of stuff. But then we also have to talk about therapy and stuff like that, because those can be so important for stuff like low self-esteem and body image, and people who are really, really struggling. I do think that sometimes just following people on Instagram and reading research is not going to do it, and some people do need that intervention from professionals to help them. So I think it's really like using all resources available to help build a positive environment, rather than, reading Cosmopolitan, which is like how to lose a stone in one day or something, something ridiculous. Yeah. It's about actually looking at positive things and surrounding yourself with positive people, and just creating a whole positive environment where people encourage you to be yourself and look like you're supposed to look as your own individual, natural, healthy body.
I also write it in my book that actually the science has proved that it really helps somebody to improve their body image by exposing yourself to body diversity. Like, if you're eating disorder, you are only looking your body goals or the inspiration or something. Like, in recovery, you have to start looking out for different body types. And this is how the body positive movement, this is proved by science, it can improve your body image. If you constantly see, for example, the body positive panda, because you relate to her and something, so you can see she's happy, she's doing whatever heck she loves, and so it really does work. So thank you for this tip, and I want to maybe now ask you about your best tips on somebody who is recovering, or maybe just your best tips that help you. For example, for me, it really helped me to understand how restriction, it's not only mental, but how the restriction can make you go mental.
Well, I think my number one tip is about you having your own personal motivation, something that helps you in your own life move you forward, because the motivations for people to recover are so different. It's so individual for each people. It could be the goal of going to university, it could be about improving your friendships, it could be about having a relationship or having a child. They're so different that I think everybody needs to find their own little or big thing that's going to keep them motivated throughout the journey. And I think that is the most important thing, is to have your goals, to have your motivations, and to really keep them in mind all the time. When you feel like you're going to slip, when you feel like you've been triggered, it's about going back to that thing and thinking, no, this is what I'm fighting for, this is what I'm doing it for. The other thing is what you just said, is information, about knowing the process of malnutrition and starvation and what that does to you, both mentally and physically, and then knowing the recovery process and knowing what's normal, and what other people are experiencing, and knowing that actually it's going to end. And I think that's such an important thing, to know that extreme hunger is going to end, that water retention, that bloating, that all that stuff is stuff that nearly everybody goes through, and that it does end. It's not something that continues on forever. And again, with weight gain as well, that knowing that will end. but also having the information to know that at the end at different points for different people. I think having that knowledge is just so helpful. Another tip would be to, as I said about the body positive movement, surround yourself with positivity and make your environment an encouraging environment. Make sure that you utilize every resource available to you, friends, family, partners, professionals, anything, support groups, websites, email support, anything that is available, use it, because you don't know which tool might be your saving grace. It might be your thing that really, really motivates you and really helps in the recovery process. I think those are probably the 3 top tips is, utilizing every resource and having a positive environment, having good knowledge, and then having your own personal motivations. I think those are 3 really, really important things for recovery.
Yeah, thank you. And these were like also, I think, very important for me, like everything you shared. So maybe now you can, do you have anything planned for your Instagram or body positive movement or something, like any plans for the future, or where people can find you and connect with you?
So as I said, my website, everythingedrecovery.com. I write articles on that. I would say monthly, but it's not really monthly. It is a bit less than that. But I do try and update at least every 2 months articles on different topics. And there's absolutely loads of links as well. I have like a resources section which has loads of information on there. I'm most active on my Instagram, which is Body Positive Pair. And I post there pretty much daily or every other day, just with kind of body positive messages or tips for eating disorder recovery, or just encouraging statements. And then sometimes I do some videos. YouTube is youtube.com/Sarah Frances Young, I think. Again, I don't update that so frequently, but I do have a lot of information on my videos there, and I do occasionally make new videos. I think that's it.
So even though you have like so much, or you don't update your website or YouTube like so frequently, you have already like so much content there, and everything that basically helped you in your recovery, so people can still go and check it out. So that's it for me, and so thank you very much. And is there anything else you want to say?
No, I don't think so. I think we pretty much covered most of it.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Bye.